Rob Bowron with Sharp College Football, and welcome to the Saturday Six. I feel like I need to change. I need to change the intro video at some point because I actually used to get up and do these on Saturday mornings, and I don't do that anymore. Anyway, I'm really excited. I've had a couple weeks off of doing these videos. I have not had a couple weeks off of work. I've been working like crazy, doing a lot of travel. Was in Montauk for an offsite last week, and then New York City. I was in Nashville the week before that, and I had a totally random dinner with an extremely famous country music singer's manager's house, which if you know what I do for a living, is quite unusual. Anyway, I'm really excited about this week in particular. This is the week that I think everyone with a pulse has had circled on their calendar for months now, or since the schedule came out. There's just a bevy of really big games that are going to have a huge impact on the playoff and the season, conference races down the stretch. Going to have a huge effect on what we think of certain coaches and teams. Really, really excited for this week. And there's good games underneath that we're not going to get to at all this week. I mean, I think Arizona BYU should be a really good game. And we're definitely not going to cover that because it's not going to make the final cut for this particular week. I mean, there's some obvious headliners, Ohio State and Oregon. Red River is some of the shine, a little bit of the shine has come off of that. We'll talk about that with Oklahoma's struggles. Ole Miss and LSU should be a really, really good game. There's a lot of really exciting things to talk about in there. And Ole Miss has been surprisingly good underneath the numbers, and really, a pretty bad loss to South Carolina. But I think one of the things to talk about too is, and we talked about this last year, was the era of, teams that have just incredible offenses or if you're like, say 2019 Clemson or 2022 Georgia. Sorry, 2021 Georgia, incredible defense. The era of teams that are really going to go out and be able to consistently win, even when they play poorly, appears not to be I don't want to say it's over, but it appears not to be. It was definitely not last season, and the fact that everybody kind of came back down to earth, partly because of offensive coordinator attrition, many of whom became head coaches or went back to the NFL. In the case of Todd Monken, or the fact that you just have defenses catching up. We've certainly seen this a bit in the NFL. There just are most of these teams are just not as far away from the teams in 3 or 4 through 10 or 12 as they used to be. And so that gives you an opportunity, if you were a team like 2023 Michigan, to win a national title. Michigan would not win a national title in, the 5 or 6 years prior. The teams were just too good. 2019 LSU would obliterate Michigan, last year's Michigan's title team. That doesn't take away that Michigan was still a really good team last season. This season, it looks like we've even taken a step back thus far from that. I'm interested to see if that holds up over the entirety of the season. Beta rank does have a time weighting in it, so we do try to capture teams as they improve or get worse as the season goes on. And so I am excited to see if anybody sort of is able to put together some really big numbers. We're just not there right now. It doesn't look like we will be. I mean, some of the very best teams, they just don't, they're not quite as dominant as we would have expected based on how teams have been the last couple seasons. So I think that's one of the things that coming into this week makes really so interesting and makes the expanded playoff actually this season really interesting. More so than it would have been, even in 2019. I mean, in 2019, we had a bevy of really good college football teams. Alabama, I think you can make an argument, really got left out of the playoff undeservedly. When Oklahoma got in, there were 4 really, really good teams that year. LSU just happened to be the best of them. But a lot of the years of the college football playoff, you have 2 really, really good teams and then a gap, right? And then, last year and then this year, I think last year the playoff an expanded playoff would have been great because There were some, like Oregon and Georgia likely would have been favored to go pretty deep in the playoff last season had they made it in, but they weren't good enough to win games when they didn't play very well. Now we're going to get to see some teams that, like, again, like none of these teams look so good that they're going to, automatically win if they show up and play a stinker of a game. Georgia already found that out this season. And I think that kind of makes things really interesting as we come into this expanded playoff, because truly, to this point, no one's really shown that they could go out and win a game. And I'm going to just keep repeating myself on this, I guess, is like, no one's really shown they can get out and win a game against like the, 4 through 12, 6 through 12 range if they play pretty poorly. That's exciting. I mean, and interesting for college football. I think it makes it more wide open. The other part that is, the new time rules are definitely compressing games. We are seeing fewer possessions. We saw fewer possessions last season than we had in seasons prior. Fewer possessions means that good teams, if you're a good team, you want more possessions. More possessions is a larger sample size. You're going to remove some of the variance in there as you add more possessions on. Worst teams, of course, want small possession, fewer number of possessions. That's generally going to close the gap in points between, really good teams and really bad teams, and introduce variance. So, like if you have, in a game where each team has 12 or 13 or 14 possessions, one turnover may not kill you. It's actually quite a different conversation if you have 2 turnovers in a game where you only have 7 possessions, 8 possessions, right? Like that's absolute murder. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited for this week. I'm excited for where this college football season is sort of heading so far. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop in. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm the econometrician behind Bowron, an advanced stats system for college football. It's built on data provided by the same folks that provide data to the College Football Playoff Committee. It is a Bayesian hierarchical model, if you really want to get very dorky about it. But what it's designed to do is designed to control for opponent and field position and game state and tempo, and give you an idea of who's really good. Now, one of the things that really differentiates Bowron, and it fascinates me, because gambling has become so dominant within the conversation of sports and college football, is I don't include opening lines in this. So you're like, and it's interesting because a lot of models that do include opening lines tend to drift from the results that actually happen on the field. And also, like, it's just not an interest. Like, I mean, forgive me if, but I don't find it an interesting question to solve. Just, getting dragged by Vegas's coattails, because the line is going to dominate. Vegas does a really good job. I still think it's the most interesting question is to be able to say who's good based on what we actually saw on the football field. And that's what this is for. If you're expecting like a preview where we're going to talk about, scheme or the weak side linebacker, we're not. Like, this is an advanced stats preview. I'd spend about 5 minutes per game. I try to stick to that. I have a timer. I'm sometimes good at it, sometimes not. We're going to run through it from an advanced stats perspective. Please don't respond with things like, points per game, yards per game, those kind of things. Those are counting stats. They're okay. They're just not controlling for all of the things that we control for in Bowron. So if you're like, oh, this offense is actually awesome or terrible, and the answer is because they have so many points per game or yards per game, like, it's just like, do me a favor and make an effort. I'll make an effort, come on. You at least have, schedule can dominate in college football because there is so much variety and team quality. And so at the very least, control for opponent, because 5-0 versus one schedule and 5-0 versus another schedule are often very different things. Anyway, so I'm going to hop in. We'll run through offensive and defensive matchups. This is going to be a really fun one. I'm excited for this week. All right. The big one. This is the game that I think we probably all had sort of circled, At least I have. I mean, I thought this would be the best game of the year. Ryan Day and Ohio State come to visit Dan Lanning at Oregon. This has a ton of fascinating subplots. Both of these guys need to win the big game. And so both of these guys will be feeling some maybe unfair pressure if they drop this one. One of these guys will. One of these guys will at least silence for a short bit until they, perhaps fall flat on their face later on in the season. The naysayers. Ohio State is, of course, ranked number 1 overall in beta rank right now. Oregon is at number 3. The number 5, Ohio State's offense sits at number 5 currently in beta rank. They're at 19 overall at drive efficiency. This is the Chip Kelly led offense in here. They do a pretty good job. They're not great at being able to sustain long drives. This is an improvement over where they were last season, though. And that's what you really needed Chip Kelly to come in and do. They fell all the way into double digits offensively last year. Kelly was brought in particular. They have improved their run game. I mean, you expect that with Chip Kelly. He runs a very sophisticated NFL driven run attack, more sophisticated than they were running at Ohio State, even though Ryan Day has a very similar system because he knows Chip Kelly. Anyway, they're quite explosive. Number 9 overall in explosive drives. Number 2 in negative drives. Play efficiency, it's your yards per play outside of explosives, controlling for all the things we talk about. It's the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics, but they're number 2 overall there. They do a really good job of avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers, moving the ball down the field, even if they don't necessarily get points. One thing that they could improve on, one of the things that separates the very best offenses from the merely good is often drive efficiency, your ability to sustain drives and put up points. That is a measure of play calling, execution, you name it, right? Like all the things that go into an offense. Other than explosives, because we're controlling for that separately. Really, like drive efficiency is critical. No big run pass split here. And again, that's a real improvement for the Buckeyes. They've struggled to run the ball since their heyday of 2019, the 2019 offense under Ryan Day, which was just phenomenal and ran the ball really well. Defensively, Tosh Lapoy is your DC for Oregon. They are really, really struggling at drive efficiency. They are, and I should say all of these defensive metrics are scaled to the offensive metrics because I want to make sure that you have a sense of it is a more offensive game than you might think, even though scoring's down a little bit. So like even the very best defense is still going to give up points to the best offense. That's just the way, football works these days. They are struggling with drive efficiency. You can sustain long drives against this Oregon defense. That's really been a problem for them. They're really good at limiting big plays, though. Number 1 in explosive drives. I kind of wonder, like some teams sometimes make a choice and trade off here, willing to give up some stuff underneath in order to not give up big plays. Just something to keep an eye on coming into this game. They're definitely, I think if you're coming into this, you're looking for a way to take away big plays from the Buckeyes. Number 34 overall at negative drives. This number and their drive efficiency numbers are their kind of watch outs. They need to force more 3 and outs. They need to force more turnovers. They're struggling a little bit against the run. That's going to be something to keep an eye on here. Number 25 in effective rush versus number 11 in effective pass. Look, it's still early-ish in the season. Some of these numbers can be skewed by, having played certain opponents and not. But I would I'm really interested to see the Oregon front 7 against this Ohio State offensive line, which does look under Kelly to have fixed some of the kinks that they've had the last couple seasons. Will Howard is your quarterback here. 71.5% completion percentage, 9.6 per. Only 3 interceptions. He looks like he's cleaned up some of the problems that he had at Kansas State with downfield accuracy, but this will be a game to see if they pop back up. Flip it over to the other side. This is really the matchup that I had circled in my head. This Oregon offense under Will Stein taking on the Jim Knowles Ohio State defense. This Oregon offense is not what they were last season when they finished number 2. But that said, they're still the best offense in college football in what is a diminished offensive year for college football this year right now. Their drive efficiency number is number 1 overall. They did leave, Gabriel threw 2 red zone interceptions last week, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Oregon does not have great starting field position, but they've still managed to put together long drives. They're struggling a little bit more with explosive drives. That's something to keep an eye on. They definitely need to find a way to put up some more big plays. Number 14 overall on play efficiency. Number 7 in negative drives. They're doing a really good job avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. They need to be, and it sounds odd because they're ranked number 1 in drive efficiency. They need to improve their number here, as well as explosive drives, as well as negative drives. If they wanted to get above 2, you don't see it here, but in beta rank, like the very best offenses that we've measured over the past couple seasons often get an offensive score above 2. Oregon achieved that last year. They're not on track for it right now. They have a pretty big run pass split, number 3 in effective pass, number 31 in effective rush. They've had some offensive line issues. I'm interested to see. This is going to be a tough game. If you got to figure out the run game. Jim Knowles led. I'm way off. This is such a fun game to preview. I've just rambled on, so I'm way off on the timer. Jim Knowles defense, I should say Dylan Gabriel is your quarterback here, 77.8% completion percentage, 8.6 per. He's also got 3 picks. 2 came in the last game. I'm interested to see what he looks like in this game. He's not Bo Nix level dialed in with this offense right now. Knowles has just been phenomenal as the Ohio State DC. They're number 8 overall in drive efficiency. You can put together some longer drives against them, but they're still really good at containing it. Number 6 in explosive drives. They're number 1 at negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They just do an excellent job here. Number 2 in effective rush versus number 5 in effective pass. If you're Oregon, you're probably going to come in here wanting to throw the ball anyway. They're going to need to be good at it. We've got this as a toss-up actually between Oregon and Ohio State. But in the prediction model where we predict points, and it's not just the naive spread, which is just a posterior distribution of the difference between the teams in beta rank, we have it 29, Ohio State 29, Oregon 27, which to be honest ain't bad for somebody that doesn't use the opening lines. There's a couple of model systems that came really close to that. Anyway. This game should be really fun too. Ole Miss has snuck up here to where we have them here at number 2 overall. They've played really well this season. As we've taken out some of the preseason projection, they've tended to improve. They did have a very bad game against South Carolina, of course, but largely they played really well, and that's reflected here at their number 2 ranking. Also, like I said, they're just not quite as good. Teams this year aren't quite as good as they have been in the past. A team like Ole Miss can sneak up to number 2 in this case. Lane Kiffin, of course, is your head coach here. Brian Kelly's your head coach of LSU. Offensively, Ole Miss sits at number 6 overall. They're really good offensively. They're at number 23 in drive efficiency. That's not all that surprising for how Lane Kiffin's, who he's employed and what they've been doing offensively. They struggle to put a little bit to sustain long drives here. That's something to keep an eye on. They are pretty explosive drive reliant, number 4 overall. They definitely look to find big plays. They do a really good job avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. They're at 35 in effective rush, number 6 in effective pass. Charlie Weiss Jr. is your offensive play caller here, by the way. What's interesting is that they have come to rely on Dart more. They had been a bit run heavy. This goes back to Kiffin employing Jeff Lebby as his offensive coordinator and running a bit of the Brile system. They got to be a little bit more run heavy in those years. They were definitely run heavy even in Dart's first couple seasons in Oxford. They've switched. They trust him more now. I think they like what they've got at the wide receiver position. They're definitely throwing the ball around more. Dart's at 73.1% completion percentage, 12.1 per. He's going to get an LSU defense with Blake Baker as your defensive coordinator. Came over from Mizzou. They're at number 55 overall. Look, this still is bad. This is a bad power 4 defense. It's like 1 to 7. Is it 75 now? It used to be like 1 to 69-ish was the power 5 teams. Is it 75 now? Anyway, in the power 4, because there's a vast difference in resources. For LSU to be sitting here at 55 is a travesty. That said, this is a significant improvement over what was one of the worst defenses in college football, in particular considering the money that was spent on it. Your marginal return for LSU on, preventing touchdowns was awful. Number 34 overall in drive efficiency. You can get longer drives against them, but this is still one of their better numbers. They struggle a little bit at preventing big plays. 47 overall on explosive drives. That's a big problem coming into this game. It is likely that they are going to get torched for some big plays here, something to keep an eye on. And they're really struggling to find negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They need to put more pressure on the quarterback for sure. They're at 23 in effective rush versus 103 in effective pass. That does not bode well for this game against Ole Miss, that has suddenly figured out that they really like to spin the ball around. This is a really tough matchup for LSU. You flip it over to the other side of the ball. This is kind of a fun one. Look, this is Joe Sloan's your offensive play caller for LSU. They were the number one offense last season. You got a new play caller, a new quarterback. Pete Golding is your defensive coordinator for Ole Miss. We'll get to that in a second. This LSU offense is still really good, though, sitting at number 2 overall. They're number 7 in drive efficiency. They struggle a little bit, relatively speaking, to sustain drives and put up points. They are number 1 overall in explosive drives, though. This is definitely a big play offense, something to keep an eye on. This given LSU's defensive struggles, there could be a lot of fireworks in this game, a lot of big plays. Number 4 in play efficiency. They're 5 in negative drives. They do a really good job avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. They have a huge run pass split. They are not running the ball very well. They've had some offensive line struggles with that. Also, Jaden Daniels isn't there to perk up those run numbers with a mobile quarterback. They're number 1 in effective pass. They do a really good job throwing the ball around. Garrett Nussmeier is your quarterback on this side, 69.7% completion percentage, 8.3 per. He's been really good. Now, Pete Golding, much maligned at Alabama, has done a really good job with this Ole Miss defense. They definitely spent some money wisely in the transfer portal here. They're at number 2 overall right now. They're at number 7 in drive efficiency. Relatively speaking, you can put together some drives against them. They're at number 5 in explosive drives. They struggle a little bit preventing big plays. Not too bad, though. These are all really good numbers. This is still an excellent defense. They're number 6 in negative drives. Pretty good at forcing 3 and outs. Pretty good at forcing turnovers. If there's a bright spot for LSU, it's that they're very, very good against the run, and a little less good against the pass. I'm excited to see this defense against this offense. This is the other sort of headline matchup if you're going to talk about the Knowles, versus Stein matchup of that Oregon offense against that really good Buckeye defense. This one is the other one. This should be really good. It's not often in college football you get a number 1 versus number 1 matchup for the best offense against the best defense, and then you follow that up with, I guess these are at the same time, so not really followed up with, but the number 2 LSU offense, the number 2 offense against the number 2 defense. Just great night for football. Have both of these on your screens. Or if you have YouTube on one screen. We have an Ole Miss, but we do have this because of LSU's defensive struggles, even though this is a home game. We've got Ole Miss 73% win probability, 6.44 in the naive spread. We've got the game, the points predicting at Ole Miss 39, LSU 31. All right, this will be fun. I mean, havoc could ensue, and this could be a no good, very bad day for Texas, like it was last year. But again, like last year, they come in on paper looking very much like the better team. Steve Sarkisian is your head coach for Texas. Brent Venables is your head coach for Oklahoma. Look, this Texas defense ranks at number 9 overall. You would say they haven't really skipped a beat, since Quinn Ewers has been out. Arch Manning has played really well. But offensively, they're a far cry from where Sark's Alabama offenses were. I still think Sark does some really good things as a play caller. They just haven't quite put it together. I had said this had better be the year, I think, for Ewers to put it together if Texas was going to take the really big step forward. They've been a bit of a defensive first team, oddly enough, kind of under the hood the last couple seasons. I'm interested. I'm really interested to see this game. Oklahoma has a pretty good, not a great, but a pretty good defense. I'm excited to see Oklahoma, this side of the ball in particular for this matchup. Venables always does a really good job prepping his teams for games. They're number 12 over on drive efficiency. They struggle a little bit here for sustaining drives to be able to put up points. Still a really explosive offense, number 7 overall here. They do a good job with play efficiency, but they've kind of struggled a bit. Negative drives, too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. If they were to clean up their drive efficiency number and negative drives number down the stretch, this offense is likely to improve. They're really struggling to run the football, which it almost feels bonkers, given that like one of the real concerns of the offseason was who's going to catch the ball. I think they're really comfortable with who they have at the pass catcher position. The injuries that they had at running back, even before the season started, have really decimated that. Really struggling to run the football right now. This Oklahoma defense, Zach Alley is your defensive coordinator. They struggle a little bit with drive efficiency, being able to find ways to get off the field, use field position to their advantage, a little susceptible for teams to be able to put together drives against them. They're at 25 in explosive drives. Again, like there's definitely some cleanup that they're going to have to do in limiting big plays where they make their hay. This isn't surprising for a Venables defense. I actually did think though that at this point, Sarkisian's offense and Venables defense would be further along than they are in their current state. But they do a really good job forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers, finding ways to get off the field early. They're at number 6 overall in effective rush. They do a really good job limiting big plays in the run game. Little bits more of struggle in the pass. That's going to be an interesting matchup for them. If their pass defense is better, it should show up in this game and help them hang in a little bit. Because when you flip it to the other side of the ball, and I'm sorry, I should say Quinn Ewers is somewhere on here in my terrible handwriting, 73.4% completion, 8.7 per. This Oklahoma offense, I was a little worried when Seth Luttrell took over as a play caller, and I know this is like a super deep cut, but Seth Luttrell was an offensive play caller in Nick Foles last season at Arizona, and I happened to go to Arizona for my undergrad. And there was a fall off in play calling from when Sonny Dykes was the play caller the year before. Look, they are really struggling offensively right now. Their offensive drive efficiency is really their best number. They do a decent job being able to sustain long drives to put up points, but they're not a terribly explosive offense, relatively speaking. They're really struggling with their play efficiency, their yards per play outside of explosives. And they are profoundly struggling with negative drives. Way too many 3-and-outs, way too many turnovers. Some of this was Jackson Arnold. And some of it isn't. I mean, look, like Michael Hawkins is only completing 62.6% of his passes. That's better than Arnold was, but still below what you would think of the modern college QB Mendoza line, which I would put somewhere near 65% for a pretty good college quarterback. 8.4 per. Pete Kwiatkowski is your Texas defensive coordinator. He's done a phenomenal job getting this defense whipped into shape. They're at number 4 overall in beta rank right now. They're at number 5 in drive efficiency. They do a good job finding ways to get off the field, use field position to their advantage. They're at 8 in explosive drives. Relatively speaking, they're a little more susceptible here. They're really good in negative drives. They're not top 10, but I'm interested to see how many 3-and-outs or turnovers they could force Oklahoma into. Number 12 here. They're a lot better against the pass than they are against the run. They're getting an Oklahoma team that just can't really throw the ball very well. They're really struggling with that. This is going to be a tough side of the ball for them. Oklahoma's going to have to find some big plays, maybe something gadget wise in order to be able to get points. Maybe their defense is able to force some turnovers, give themselves a short field. Maybe special teams can add in here. But truly, like, we've got this Texas at 84% win probability on a neutral field. We've got it at 12.44 points in the naive spread and 29-20 in the predicted score. All right. A little bit of shine came off this after USC absolutely face planted against a not very good Minnesota team. Penn State, of course, is coached by James Franklin. Lincoln Riley is your head coach at USC. This Penn State offense has really improved under Andy Kotelnicki. Look, it's not that they were terrible last season. They were still a top 20 offense. Getting up into the top 10, though, is a really big step forward. They're still struggling with explosive drives, but their drive efficiency number is really good. It's kind of funny. Like, you would read this and think this is almost like a souped up Service Academy offense. Like, Service Academy offenses often do really well at drive efficiency. I mean, unsurprisingly, they sustain long drives. They're not terribly explosives. Their points come from like being able to execute. So sometimes they will have the top score in drive efficiency. They'll often also have the top score in effective rush. Anyway, there's still some cleaning up to do on the explosive side, but you can tell that the innovation has worked with what he's brought in. They're at number 23 in play efficiency. Where they struggle, I mean, beyond putting up big plays, is negative drives. There's too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. They need to clean this side of things up a bit. They definitely have a decent run pass split. They're at number 13 in effective rush versus 34 in effective pass. I don't know that Drew Allar, unless it's next season, is going to live up to the hype that he certainly came in with. And I think that they're still learning this offense. I mean, anytime you get a new offensive coordinator, sometimes you can just see amazing results and it clicks immediately. This one, I mean, there's still positive results. It just doesn't appear to be like fully clicking on. They get a USC defense under Danton Lynn that is significantly improved. I mean, again, like this is a middle of the power 4 defense, but that is a huge improvement over where they were under Alex Grinch with Lincoln Riley. He's had an immediate positive impact on how this defense is playing. Really tip of the hat to Riley for making the hire and Lynn for having the immediate impact you expect when you pay big dollars. Their drive efficiency is middle of the road. You can put together some long drives against them and find points. They're struggling a little bit with big plays. You saw that in the Michigan game that they really should have won. They gave up 3 big run plays, and that was enough. Play efficiency at 32. They do a decent job. Again, this is all relatively speaking at negative drives. They definitely need to force more 3-and-outs, force more turnovers. They're struggling a little bit against the run. Some of this is the Michigan game sort of in there. Some of this, of course, is, just struggling a little bit against the run. I'm interested to see this game because Penn State does run the ball pretty well. Drew Allar is at 70.9% completion, 10.7 per. He's definitely been able to hit more down the field, relying on the run game to kind of set some of that up. You flip it over to the other side of the football. This USC offense really has just not been in the same range. This is, I hate to say that, I mean, this is kind of where I expected them to fall when you lose Caleb Williams. And you haven't fixed some of the underlying issues that made Caleb Williams' life hard when it didn't need to be at USC. They are really, really struggling with drive efficiency. They cannot sustain drives right now. If you can take away explosive drives against them, like USC is in a world of hurt because they struggle to put together drives to put up points. They are really good at explosive drives, number 10 overall here. And when it works, they're able to put it together. Negative drives, 20 overall. They do a decent job avoiding 3-and-outs, avoiding turnovers. Huge run pass split. I mean, and truly the offensive line at this point should be far, far better than it is. People, I think, some USC fans are calling for a mobile quarterback as a potential solution to the problems that are plaguing the Trojans. I mean, truly, maybe that could help, but your real problem is your offensive line coach just isn't getting it done. Anyway, you get a Kevin Wilson-led Penn State defense. Look, and he's mostly held serve. I was a little worried. He hasn't coached defense in a little while. Penn State's been a defense-first team the past couple seasons, at least since the Moorhead hire, ran its course. But they needed to sustain what they've been doing defensively. They absolutely have. Number 11 in drive efficiency, a pretty good job avoiding giving up long drives. They're pretty good against big plays. They're really good at forcing 3-and-outs and forcing turnovers. This could be a hard day at the office for the USC offense. That is, as we saw against Minnesota, is just having some hard days at the office. Number 4 in effective rush versus number 10 in effective pass. We've got Miller Moss as your quarterback here, 64.5% completion percentage, 7.0 per. That's rough. Some of the very best teams that we've talked about, very best quarterbacks, certainly are completing a higher percentage of their pass than this, even though this is basically on the Mendoza line. And 7.0 per is really rough for a quarterback of what should be a team of higher quality than what we're seeing here. We've got this as Penn State with an 80% win probability, 9.55 in the naive spread. We've got it to 28-22 in the predicted score, though, a little bit closer. This is a sneaky good game. Really, truly. Like I wasn't expecting West Virginia to be good again this season, and in particular good again offensively. We'll see that when we flip over the other side of the ball. And they really have been. And so kudos to them for keeping it going. This Iowa State team is really good. Kind of falling, like we've got them we had them projected in the top 20. They struggled a little bit more than you would have expected for a bit of that Baylor game last week, but then they put it together. Matt Campbell's your head coach, of course, for Iowa State. Neil Brown is your head coach for West Virginia. Offensively, Iowa State's got a new offensive coordinator, Taylor Mauser. They're at number 19 overall. They are really profoundly struggling with drive efficiency, being able to sustain drives and put up points. The execution's not there. You could maybe argue they're struggling a little bit with the play calling, but they do a really good job of putting up big plays. Number 18 overall here. They're just excellent though at avoiding 3-and-outs and avoiding turnovers. They take care of the ball largely, and they avoid 3-and-outs. They at least get something moving to help the field position battle here. They don't have a really big run pass split. I got to say, I find that a little bit surprising because Rocco Becht was really a very, very good young quarterback last season. 65.9% completion percentage, 8.9 per. Like this Iowa State offense, this is still a really good number for them at number 18 overall. West Virginia's defense has really struggled. I mean, they're Jordan Leslie's your defensive coordinator here. They haven't been good in a couple of years. At least since Tony Gibson was there, who they kind of ran out of town. Anyway, this is a bad power 4 defense at number 64 overall. They're struggling to prevent long drives. They are struggling to prevent big plays. And if there's a number they can hang their hat on, unfortunately, it's the thing that Iowa State's really good at, of forcing 3-and-outs and forcing turnovers. They are pretty susceptible to giving up big plays in the passing game. That's something to keep an eye on here for Iowa State to maybe try to take advantage of. And we ran the Rocco Becht's numbers. We talked about that. Anyway, this side of the ball should be pretty interesting. Iowa State should have a significant advantage here. West Virginia might need to force a turnover or two. Flip it over to the other side of the football, though. This West Virginia offense is really good, and it's completely surprising because last year it was like a really short passing game, and this year they could just run the football. They're at number 13 overall. Number 26 overall in drive efficiency. They struggle a little bit here to be able to sustain drives to put up points, but they make up for it by being really explosive. Number 11 overall on explosive drives and avoiding 3-and-outs and avoiding turnovers, making sure to at least do something when you get the ball. The effective rush number, they're number 8 overall in effective rush. That's just, again, like this was a team that threw the ball short a lot last season. Being able to run the ball has certainly helped Garrett Green quite a bit. He's only got a 57.1% completion percentage, 8.4 per. That's not amazing. Chad Scott's your play caller here for West Virginia, by the way. John Heacock is your play caller for Iowa State. They're number 25 overall. This is a really solid, it's hard to recruit. It's hard to recruit players to Ames, but they've been really good at developing. And Heacock, I think, is one of the underrated defensive coordinators in all of college football. Number 25 overall here. They're at 44 in drive efficiency. They struggle a little bit. You can put together some drives to put up points against them, but they're pretty good at limiting big plays at number 20. Number 24 in negative drives, pretty good at forcing 3-and-outs and turnovers. They have a decent run pass split. That's going to be interesting here because they're struggling more against the run than they are against the pass. Some of that may be some of the competition they faced up to this point, and we'll certainly get an eye on it here because they're going to have to slow down a pretty good West Virginia rushing attack. But the effective pass number, it certainly bodes well for them being able to potentially bring extra guys into the box to help control the run game. West Virginia has not been lighting it up offensively, throwing the football around. So that should be a positive thing for them. When you look at the overall matchup, though, here, West Virginia is certainly at a bit of a disadvantage. We've got this, though, because these teams are so close and because West Virginia's defense or offense has been really good. It makes up for a significant amount of the liability that their defense is. We've got this as Iowa State, just a 52% win probability on the road. West Virginia also gets the home bump here, about a 0.5 point for Iowa State in the naive spread. But we have this actually predicted going the other way. in the predicted points. West Virginia 31 to Iowa State 36. Honestly, I mean, I feel like it's going to come down, and where that prediction's coming from is really this effective rush number here. If West Virginia is able to run the football really well against this Iowa State defense, has struggled a little bit to defend the run. This game could go a little bit towards the Mountaineers. Our group of 6 game this week is Bowling. It's a MAC game. Look, the MAC boasts some fun matchups, fun teams this season. And of course we have NIU here, who has like the big upset at Notre Dame, and Bowling Green, a team that oh my God, I got these flipped. What a doofus. Hold on. What a complete and utter goofball. Apologies. Okay. Check. So these are good group of 6 offenses here, and 2 good group of 6 teams. Look, Scott Loeffler is your head coach at Bowling Green. Thomas Hancock is your head coach at NIU. This Bowling Green offense is really good. Nick Bendetto is your defensive coordinator for NIU. Max Warner is your offensive coordinator for Bowling Green. Offensively, Bowling Green, they're at number 59 overall, 52 in drive efficiency. They do a pretty good job finding ways to sustain drives, put up points. A little less explosive, 77, but still a good number again for a group of 6 team. They're at number 37 though in negative drives. They managed to avoid 3 and outs, avoid turnovers. This is a really good number for them. They're at number 76 in effective rush. They do have a good run pass split. Number 35 in effective pass. Former Mizzou QB Connor Bezelek is your QB here. 68.1% completion, 7.6 per. He's pretty good, and now he gets to go against conference foes, and that's going to help, right? Like not having to go play Penn State, and their solid defense is absolutely going to help. This NIU defense is really the strength of the team. They're at number 60 overall. This is a really good group of 6 defense. They do a pretty good job at drive efficiency. They do a really good job limiting big plays. I think this matchup will be interesting because a lot of it's going to come down to like, is Bowling Green able to sustain some drives here? They do a pretty good job on play efficiency. Their yards per play outside of explosive. Negative drives 70. Need to force more 3 and outs, force some more turnovers. They don't have a big run pass split here, but they are better against the run. Interested to see how they do against a pretty good Bowling Green passing attack. Flip it over to the other side of the ball. This is still a pretty good, not great, but pretty good group of 6 offense for NIU. They're at number 92 overall. Wesley. Oh my God, my own handwriting is completely illegible. Beshhomer is your offensive coordinator for NIU, and I probably completely mangled that, and I apologize. Anyway, they struggle a little bit with some of these numbers. Their drive efficiency is not great. It's good for a group of 6 team, kind of middle of the road-ish. They can find ways to sustain some drives. They're still reasonably explosive again, finding ways to put up big plays and put up some points. They struggle with their play efficiency. Where they're really good is avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers, doing something positive with the ball once you get it, not just trotting back to your own sidelines. They definitely run the ball better than they throw it. Big run pass split here. Ethan Hampton's your quarterback, 58.3% completion percentage, 7.6 per. He does add a little bit in the run game. This Bowling Green defense is really good though, and that's why they're ranked higher. They have a better offense. They have a really good offense. They have a better offense. They still have a really good defense for a group of 6 team. Steve Morrison is your defensive coordinator here. They're really, really good at drive efficiency. Their offense helps them out. It's like I said, it's a pretty good group of 6 offense here. It helps them out by giving them a lot of field to work with, and they use that field to their advantage to avoid giving up points. Explosive drives number 91. You can put up, they're a little more susceptible to putting up big plays. That's something to keep an eye on here. I think what makes this game so interesting is if you're peeking down is that like the defense is pretty good, but they struggle with the one thing that NIU is kind of good at. They're at number 67 overall at negative drives. Do a decent job, again, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They have a big run pass split, though. They're better defending the pass than they are the run. Some of that, of course, may be that they played Penn State. Yeah, we're going to find out this week when they play NIU if they're able to slow down this pretty good NIU rushing attack. This matchup is a lot of fun. I'm excited for this one. One, to get to see a pretty good Bowling Green offense take on this pretty good NIU defense, and then to see like what is on paper, if you weren't to look at the rush number, on paper should shape up as an advantage for Bowling Green. It might actually kind of neutralize it a little bit because they have struggled a little bit against the run. We've got this, though, Bowling Green with a 75% win probability, about 7.5 points, 7.56 in the naive spread. And we've got them predicted to win in the predicted points 24-15. That's it. We did it. I'm like, it's been fun to get back and do one of these. I really enjoy doing them. I really enjoy getting to talk college football, talk about coordinators that are having a good year and players and teams that are having better than expected years. And the advanced stats is the way to find that out. Beyond wins and losses, there's still some randomness in wins and losses. I'm not saying, we all watch the game for that reason, but, underneath the wins and losses and some of the random, which makes sports fun. Part of why we like sports is the random element in it so that anything could happen, right? Anyway, beneath that sits, the actual stats that are can help predict games. And I just find I find getting to talk about who's having a really good year one of the most interesting things, or who's having an unexpectedly bad year underneath what may look like a really good win-loss record. I'm excited. I'm particularly excited, like I said, for the headline matchups. But keep an eye on this Bowling Green NIU game. Should be a lot of fun, as well as the Iowa State versus West Virginia game. That's another really good game that's going to have a lot to say about the Big 12 race. So let's hop out and let's do the I've done enough rambling. Let's do the. So you can find all the stats you just saw and a lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowron. I'm the econometrician chicken behind BetaRank, the advanced stat system for college football. You can find me at BetaRank FB or at Sharp College Football. We have a YouTube channel that you're probably watching this on, Sharp College Football. Anyway, thank you so